I loved Google's report. So there was so much goodness there. And I'm trying to remember like some of the summary stuff that I did, but yeah, Google crushed it, over $100 billion in revenue for the quarter, which basically puts them on par with like Apple's $400 billion revenue run rate, annual revenue run rate. And Google is growing at roughly 13%, Apple at roughly 6%. And in my view, Google's products are, they're not like one or two replacement cycles away from getting replaced. So they're much more solid in terms of like their revenue base continuing into the next, let's say decade, as opposed to Apple. I'm less bullish on Apple, especially because their revenue growth is so much slower. Their price earnings ratio is better than Apple's at 28. Google's in a pretty good position, and they just continue to execute. But stock has also like gone up quite a bit over the past 6 months or whatever it's been since I started buying it. Um, Comparing that to, one thing I think I've been very vocal that I'm like negative about Google is that I think that they have been too slow to execute on their overall strategy. Their overall strategy is not very cohesive. They're sort of like all over the place. They could be much more aggressive towards OpenAI, shut the door on like lots of different areas for them, so that OpenAI doesn't grow and sort of like dwarf them at some point in the future, which I think is starting to happen in that like it's not that Google is not going to grow. It's just that OpenAI could grow so much faster that at some point OpenAI could become bigger than Google. This is exactly what happened with Google versus Microsoft. It's not that Microsoft stopped growing, but Google became bigger than Microsoft in terms of revenue, and in some areas Microsoft became irrelevant, like in search, for example, where Microsoft was not quick enough to recognize the importance of search and compete against Google when it was a tiny little baby, right? And I think this is exactly something that's happening between Google and OpenAI. Um, so uh, Contrast that to Meta. I think Meta is also executing beautifully. 26% year over year revenue increase to over 50 billion. Now Meta is at a $200 billion revenue run rate with just basically three products. One of them is not even revenue optimized. And then they just continue to acquire the talent for AI. They're very hyper focused. The PE of Meta is now like around 20, which is pretty incredibly low for a fast growing tech company that's growing at 26% year over year. And they don't even have any revenue from AI that they could potentially in the future. And they're doing exciting things around AI, and like their glasses, for example, which the revenue is near zero in terms of, it's a rounding error compared to their overall revenue. If those things become a reality down the road, like where 5 years from now they're selling 100 million glasses per year, that could be pretty substantial. And those are the things that sort of like excite me about Meta. Um, yeah. Any thoughts or questions there
No, so
before
I
we move
mean,
on?
so far with Google and Meta's earnings, there really hasn't been any surprises.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, I guess the surprise for me on Meta was how much their top line revenue grew, despite the fact that they don't have a new revenue source. They're just like, yeah. Go ahead.
And that reminds me, you actually bought Meta after the earnings, right?
That's right. That's right. The stock price went down. I mean, like sometimes like the market is like, you have to do a pause and be like, what? There was one-time expenses that caused Meta's EPS to be pretty low, but there was nothing in Meta's report that was a concern, right? So they're stronger than ever in terms of revenue, more revenue than, like, accelerated revenue growth to 26% annualized. Um, and then the stock goes down like 20, what was it, like 10 or 15%? I forget the exact numbers, don't quote me, but
I don't.
it's down pretty substantially. And at one point I'm like, okay, this is one of those mega cap companies that I want to, I want to own more of. Um,
And
and
how
then,
much? What's
go
your
ahead.
allocation of your portfolios in Meta now?
In Meta, let me look. So There, there is 7.6%, but largely because it's gone down. What is it? In the past week, it's gone down only 4.5%. So, but in the past month, it's down 14%. So yeah, I mean, I think Meta is still very reasonably priced. It's not exceptionally cheap, but a PE of 21, I think is for a mega cap company with a lot of potential, with all the right investments, with being founder led. I like Meta way better than Google or Apple or Microsoft or any of those guys.